Welcome everybody to look at the third and final release from Radiance Films for October, and it is 2001's Visible Secret. So this is directed by Anne Huai, who I've not seen anything else from before, but I have looked up her filmography and there are a couple of interesting films there that I am definitely going to be checking out. It's a horror comedy clocking in at 103 minutes long. Stars Shu Kwai, who was also in the Transporter film. She was the woman that was basically being kidnapped and put in the trunk of the lead character's car, played by Jason Statham. Also saw Sam Lee, who was in Invisible Target. And this is about a man who develops a relationship with a woman who has mysterious supernatural abilities. So, although don't feel that the comedic element to this film overly worked in comparison to the horror aspect, the horror aspect and the characterization definitely worked a lot better than the comedic element. It still has some funny moments, but they're only really chuckles. They're not really laugh out loud moments. But it is still overall engrossing as well, despite the comedic element not quite working as well. The cast is also really rather good. It is well paced. The production is solid. There is some effective tension in the horror scenes, which are also really well shot, as the cinematography is on point, and the character interactions are well written. My only real issue with this film is that the twist right at the end comes out of pretty much nowhere without any real build up. However, that may well become less of an issue upon a rewatch, as maybe I just didn't twig on those, those subtle hints throughout the film that this twist was actually going to be coming. So yeah, a rewatch may well make me enjoy this even more, but it's still a solid 3.5 out of 5. It's by no means a film I hated, but with the comedy element not quite working as well as the horror or the characterization and that twist ending, yeah, it was a little bit underwhelming in comparison to some films that we've seen before from Radiance Films. But by no means my least favorite of their releases, and yeah, it's overall a still an entertaining and engrossing film. Just not quite as comedic as you might expect for a film that is billed as a horror comedy. So yeah, you also get a really nice booklet with this, as per usual with Radiance Films releases. In here we have the typical cast and crew. We also have Visible Secret and the Look of Hong Kong Horror from 2023 by Gary Bettinson. We also have New Millennium Old Ghosts by Dylan Chang. And we have transfer notes and credits. So this has actually had a new high definition by Media Asia and supplied to Radiant Films as a digital file. So yeah, not the most in-depth, restoration or anything like that. It is ultimately still a high definition, transfer or whatever, but it's still decent enough in terms of the way it looks, and yeah, it certainly doesn't look bad at all. You've also got, in terms of on the disc extras, you've got a new conversation between Anne Huai and critic Ken Smith from 2023. You've got new visual essay by critic and programmer Alexander Heller Nicholas from 2023, and you've got archival making of documentary featuring interviews with the cast and crew from 2001. You've also got a trailer, a new and improved English subtitle translation by Dylan Chung, and all of the physical extras that were shown off here. So yeah, overall a solid film, and it's not my favorite of the three that Radiance Films have released directly from them, or favorite of the four if you count the Raro video release of Night of the Devils. But yeah, it's still my not my favorite of those two Radiance Films releases, the horrible Dr. Hitchcock and Messiah of Evil. I certainly preferred those films as well as Night of the Devils. But yeah, still, like I said, not my least favorite Radiance Films release. I still think, yeah, Red Sun is probably my least favorite of the bunch so far. But this is still a cut above that, and I do still think this still will have some rewatch value to it, especially when you take into context of the twist ending, which I, yeah, definitely will probably get more satisfaction from if upon a rewatch. So yeah, I do look forward to seeing it again, but it's still not a film that I regret getting into my collection. It is part of the half year bundle, so technically didn't have to pay anything for it, but yeah, still it's well worth watching at least. And yeah, it's nice to see a different side to the Hong Kong horror comedy kind of films, because we've seen a lot from the likes of Eureka in that kind of genre, which have been from the 80s or the early 90s, which yeah, really are a little bit silly and goofy in areas, whereas this is plays it a little bit more seriously, which is perhaps why the comedy element doesn't quite work as well as you might expect. But still, worth seeing, especially if you're into Hong Kong action, Hong Kong horror comedies, even. And yeah, if you haven't seen it, then I do recommend seeing it at least once. But yeah, nonetheless, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.